All right, let's talk about one of the most common pieces of career advice you've probably heard a million times. Follow your passion. But what if that advice is actually a lie? According to our source material today, it might just be the very thing that's holding you back from real success.
Yeah, you heard that right. Our source calls this one of the biggest lies ever told by self-help gurus. The argument is pretty radical, that following your passion isn't the path to success. It's actually a direct path to keeping you poor. It's a huge claim, so let's really unpack why.
Now, I know what you're thinking, but what about LeBron James or Drake? Surely they followed their passion. And yeah, the source totally acknowledges that for artists and athletes, it can be a different game. But even they have to be incredibly practical, often simplifying their art to get that mass appeal. And that word right there, practicality, that's the key.
And that leads us right into the first big reason: wealth is practical. The central idea here is that truly successful people don't chase passion first. They prioritize practicality. Wealth isn't built on fluffy emotions, it's built on cold, hard logic.
So get this. The speaker in our source material tells this story about how whenever he charters a private jet, he makes a point to ask what the owner does for a living. And the answer is never something glamorous like, I own a fashion brand or I started a cool coffee shop. It's always something, well, kind of boring.
You know that $30 million jet on your vision board? The person who owns it probably didn't dream about collecting garbage as a kid. They likely made their fortune in something like waste management or mortgage broker software. They simply saw a practical need in the market, and they filled it.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. The market couldn't care less that you are passionate about starting the 9,000th brand of gymwear. The market only cares about its own problems. Real wealth is built by giving the market a solution it actually wants and needs.
So, this leads to a really powerful mindset shift. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who follows their passion, the idea here is to adopt a new identity, a professional problem solver. Your entire focus shifts to what problem exists and how can I create a solution that people will pay for.
Let's actually trace how this works in the real world, using the speaker's own career as a perfect example. He didn't just jump into a huge software company. Nope, he started small, with a creative agency doing photo and video. He built skills, which let him level up to an advertising agency. And each step of the way, he was able to spot a bigger, more valuable problem to solve, which eventually led him to create a software company for other agencies. It's a ladder. You build skills to solve bigger and bigger problems.
Okay, so this whole problem solver mindset, it requires a certain amount of detachment, which brings us right to reason number 2. Business is not emotional. Now, emotions are vital in your personal life, for sure, but in business, they can be a huge liability.
It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Business decisions demand cold, hard logic. The second you get emotionally wrapped up in an idea just because it's your passion, you lose your objectivity, and that is incredibly dangerous.
When you're too passionate, you start wearing what the source calls rose-tinted glasses. You're so in love with your project, with your baby, that you're completely blind to its flaws. You just ignore all the negative feedback from the very people you're trying to sell to. So you end up at a fork in the road, right? You've got two ways to go. The emotional path is saying, ugh, people just don't get my vision, and then you refuse to change anything. But the logical path? That's looking at the data and saying, okay, the market is telling us this isn't working. We need to pivot. One of those paths leads to failure, and the other leads to growth.
It all boils down to this key idea. Be married to the destination, not the route you take to get there. Successful people are committed to the end goal, financial freedom, success, whatever it is, but they're not emotionally attached to the specific business that gets them there. They're totally willing to change course based on what the market says, as long as it doesn't violate their ethics.
But let's say you nail it. You're practical, you're logical. Well, there's still one more trap. And this is the third and final reason, and honestly, our source calls it the most depressing one of all: the curse of monetization. It's this crazy paradox that so many people learn the hard way. The minute you turn something you love into your job, the very act of making money from it can completely suck the joy out of it. What used to be your escape becomes just another source of stress. You know, the speaker found this out himself when he started the clothing brand. All of a sudden, his love for fashion was replaced by these massive headaches, shipping problems, inventory stuck at customs. He wasn't designing what he loved anymore, he was optimizing for profit, releasing whatever sold the best, even if he wasn't proud of it.
And listen, this isn't just a thing for small business owners. Think about it. Even massive superstars have to play the game and cater to the market to stay on top. Some people might call it selling out, but really it's just this unavoidable curse of turning your passion into a product.
To really hammer this point home, check this out. The speaker, who is a huge watch enthusiast, estimates he could easily pull in $100 million a year if he started a watch business. With his audience and his money, it's totally possible.
And you know what? He won't do it. He flat out refuses. So why on earth would anyone walk away from a potential $100 million a year business? Because he's learned his lesson. He wants to keep his love for watches pure. He wants it to be sacred, something totally separate from the pressure of making money.
Okay, so if follow your passion is a lie, then what's the truth? What's the alternative? It's all about shifting your entire mindset away from passion and toward becoming a problem solver.
Let's just lay it all out side by side. The lie says, follow your passion. The reality is, be practical and solve problems. The lie says, emotions are your guide. The reality, logic is your tool. And the biggest lie of all, monetize what you love, becomes keep some of your passions sacred.
So your new mission, should you choose to accept it, isn't about finding some colorful, airy-fairy passion to turn into a business. It's about becoming a professional problem solver who builds logical, practical solutions for the real world.
And that brings us to the final question, the one I want you to really think about. Forget your passions, just for a second. Look around with new eyes. What's a boring, unglamorous problem out there that you could get paid and paid well to solve today? The answer to that question might be the real key to everything you're looking for.